Hello, my midnight groupers, and welcome back to another episode of Disturbing Ouija Board Horror Stories. If you enjoyed this series, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below. Enjoy.
After my dad died, my mum burned his clothes. The Ouija board told me why. I almost didn't record this tonight. Not because the story isn't good. Honestly, it's probably the most unsettling thing that's ever happened to me, but because my brain just feels fried. You ever stay up way too late scrolling TikTok or Reddit, promising yourself one more video for like an hour straight? Yeah, that was me tonight. It's almost 2:30 a.m. right now. My apartment is quiet, except for the rain hitting the window and the stupid buzzing sound my fridge makes every 20 seconds. I made coffee way too late, which was a mistake. And now I'm sitting here wired, but exhausted at the same time. Earlier I was actually going to upload something completely different. Just a normal story someone sent me about a creepy motel outside Phoenix. But while I was digging through my old emails looking for the file, I found something else instead. An old screenshot. One I took 3 years ago. And the second I saw it, that weird feeling came back. That tight, uncomfortable feeling in your chest when you remember something you've spent a long time trying not to think about. It reminded me that I never actually told anyone this whole story. Not online. Not on Reddit. Not even most of my friends know the full version. The weird part is, it started with something completely normal. My dad dying. I know that sounds harsh, but death itself wasn't the strange part. My dad had been sick for a long time. Liver failure. Years of hospital visits, medications, and those quiet car rides home where nobody says anything because everyone already knows the situation. By the time it finally happened, it wasn't a shock. It was more like a slow, sad exhale. I was 22 at the time, living at home in a small suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. Nothing special about the place, just rows of identical houses. A gas station on the corner, a McDonald's that somehow always got your order wrong, and a Kroger that smelled weird near the dairy section. Normal life. My dad passed away in early October. Cold morning. Grey sky. The kind of weather that makes everything feel heavier. The hospital called around 6:40 a.m. My mum answered. I remember hearing her say okay into the phone about 6 different times before she hung up. Then she just sat at the kitchen table for a long time without saying anything. That whole week after that felt like living underwater. Family visiting. People bringing casseroles. Paper plates stacked everywhere. My aunt crying in the living room, while the TV played some random HGTV show nobody was watching. And through all of it, my mum acted strange. Not emotional, not numb, just focused. The day after the funeral, she started going through my dad's things. And when I say going through, I mean systematically eliminating them. His shoes, his jackets, his old baseball caps, everything. At first I figured it was just her way of coping. Some people hold on to everything after someone dies. Others can't stand seeing reminders everywhere. But the weird part was what she did with the clothes. She didn't donate them, didn't box them up, didn't ask family members if they wanted anything. She burned them in the backyard. I'm not exaggerating. Our backyard had one of those cheap metal fire pits from Walmart, the kind people use for roasting marshmallows in the summer. And for 3 nights in a row, my mom stood outside feeding my dad's clothes into that fire like she was trying to erase him. Shirts, jackets, even his old winter coat. The smell was awful. Burning fabric has this thick, chemical scent that sticks in your throat. I remember standing by the sliding glass door, watching her through the reflection in the window. Flames lighting up the yard, while she just stared into the fire like she was waiting for something. The 3rd night, I finally asked her about it. I stepped outside and said something like, "Mum, why are you burning everything?" She didn't look at me right away, just poked the fire with this long metal stick we used for the grill. Then she said something that stuck with me for years. She said, "Some things shouldn't stay in the house." That was it. No explanation. Just that. At the time, I assumed she meant memories or grief or something like that. But now I know she meant something else entirely. Because a week later, I found something in my dad's office. And that's when everything started getting weird. My dad had a small office in the basement. Nothing fancy. Just a desk, an old Dell computer, a printer that jammed constantly, and shelves filled with random paperwork. Growing up, it was basically off-limits. Not in a strict way, but it was his space. After he died, nobody really went down there. One afternoon, I decided to clean it out, mostly because my mum kept avoiding the basement altogether. The room smelled like dust and old electronics. That weird, warm plastic smell computers get after running for years. His desktop computer was still on the desk, and surprisingly, it still worked. I pressed the power button mostly out of curiosity. The monitor flickered to life after a few seconds. Windows login screen. No password. Just his name. That alone felt strange. My dad wasn't the type to leave things unsecured. He was weirdly cautious about stuff like that. But I logged in anyway. The desktop was exactly what you'd expect from someone in their late 50s. Random PDF manuals, old tax documents, pictures of fishing trips, a folder labeled recipes that just contained screenshots of BBQ instructions. Normal dad computer stuff. Nothing strange, until I noticed the browser. Tor. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a browser people use to access the deep web. Now, before anyone jumps to conclusions, yes, I know Tor has legitimate uses. Privacy, journalism, stuff like that. But my dad, the man barely understood how Netflix worked. Seeing Tor on his computer felt wrong. Like finding a motorcycle helmet in the closet of someone who doesn't even own a bike. So naturally I clicked it. The browser opened instantly, and the even stranger part, it was already logged into something. A site. Dark background. Minimal text. Looked almost like an old Reddit forum from 2007. There were threads, usernames, message boards. But the titles made no sense. Stuff like Object Retention Protocol, Attachment Cases, Post-mortem Contamination. At first I assumed it was some weird conspiracy forum. The internet is full of those. But then I saw something that made my stomach drop. A thread my dad had posted in. His username was simple. J Harper, 5'8", which matched his name. I clicked the thread. There were maybe 15 replies in total. The first message was written by him, and it said, "If I die before resolving this, what happens to the object?" Just reading that sentence gave me chills, because my dad had posted it 3 weeks before he died. The replies were even worse. People were answering him like they knew exactly what he meant. One response said, "Destroy or remove all contaminated items immediately. Fire is recommended." Another said, "Do not allow the object to remain in the household after death. Attachment transfer is possible." And then the final reply, posted only 2 days before he died. It said, "If removal fails, the entity may seek a new point of contact within the family." I remember just sitting there staring at the screen, my brain trying to decide if this was some elaborate troll forum or something my dad had gotten wrapped up in. Then I noticed something else. Another tab was open. A different site. Not a forum this time. Just a blank, dark page with a simple text box. And one sentence at the top. "Session active. Spirit Communication Board." It took me a second to realize what it was supposed to be. A digital Ouija board. Like the ones people use during sleepovers when they want to scare themselves. Except this one looked older, more serious. And there was a message already sitting in the chat log. 3 words. All caps. He didn't finish. At first I assumed it was leftover from some previous user. Then another message appeared, right in front of me. The typing happened slowly, letter by letter, like someone was pressing keys on the other side. "You should ask your mother." That was the moment I heard something upstairs. A loud metallic clang, like the lid of the fire pit slamming shut. And when I looked out the basement window toward the backyard, I saw smoke rising into the night again. My mom was burning something else. Something she hadn't burned before. And I didn't realize it yet. But the Ouija board was about to tell me exactly what it was. The first thing I remember after seeing that message on the screen was the silence. Not normal silence. The kind that makes your ears ring. The computer monitor was the only light in my dad's basement office, casting that pale blue glow over everything. The dusty shelves, the old printer, the framed fishing photo on the wall, where he's smiling with a base almost as long as his arm. And that message, still sitting there. "You should ask your mother." I didn't touch the keyboard. Didn't even breathe for a second. Because my brain was trying to come up with some explanation that didn't involve what it looked like. Maybe the site had some automated response system. Maybe someone else was logged into the account remotely. Maybe it was a delayed message loading. But then the text box flickered again. Another message appeared. Slow. Mechanical. Like someone tapping keys deliberately. He told her to burn them. I leaned closer to the screen. My heart was beating way harder than it should have been. Because the timing didn't make sense. My mom was outside right now, burning my dad's clothes. And somehow this thing, this weird deep web Ouija site, was talking about it like it already knew. Before I could type anything, another message appeared. But he didn't tell her about the last one. And right then, clang. Another metallic slam outside. Louder this time. I actually flinched. For a second, I just sat there staring at the basement window. You know those small rectangular windows near the ceiling that look out into the yard? That's what this one was. The glass was foggy, with condensation from the cold outside. And through it, I could see orange light flickering. The fire. My mum was still out there. I stood up slowly and walked to the window. Something about the smoke looked different tonight. Thicker, darker. Like whatever she was burning now wasn't just fabric. I wiped a circle in the condensation with my sleeve and looked out. My mom was standing by the fire pit again. Same metal stick in her hand. But she wasn't feeding clothes into it. She was holding something heavier. A box. Wooden. About the size of a shoebox. I watched as she hesitated, like she was debating something in her head. Then she dropped it into the flames. The box hit the fire with a dull thud. For a second, nothing happened. Then the lid cracked open from the heat, and something inside shifted. I couldn't see clearly from the basement window, but whatever was in that box, it moved. Just slightly. My stomach twisted. I stepped away from the window immediately. "Okay," I said quietly to myself. "Okay. Nope." I turned back to the computer. The chat box had updated again. More text. She waited too long. I finally typed something. My hands were shaking enough that I had to correct the spelling. "Who is this?" The response came almost instantly. "You know." I swallowed. Typed again. "Is this some kind of joke?" There was a longer pause this time. Then the typing started again. Slow. Like whoever was writing wanted me to read each word carefully. "You found his account." Another line appeared. "You read the thread." Another. "You already know." A cold pressure settled in my chest, because part of me did know, or at least suspected. My dad had been using this forum, posting about some kind of object, and people were telling him to burn contaminated items. Then my mum suddenly started burning his belongings the day after he died. I typed one more message. "What object?" The screen stayed still for almost 10 seconds. Then one sentence appeared. "Check the desk." I stared at it, then slowly turned around. My dad's desk was behind me. It was one of those big wooden ones with 3 drawers on each side. I had already looked through most of them earlier. Pens, old bills, random receipts. Nothing weird. But now, standing there with the computer screen glowing behind me, the room suddenly felt different. Heavier. Like the air had thickened. I walked back to the desk, pulled open the top drawer again. Pens, notebooks, a calculator. Nothing. Second drawer, folders, insurance paperwork. Still nothing. Then I opened the bottom drawer and immediately noticed something I had somehow missed earlier. The bottom panel of the drawer wasn't flush. It was raised slightly, like a false bottom. My chest tightened. I reached inside and pressed on the panel. It shifted, lifted up easily, and underneath, there was a small velvet bag, black, drawstring tied tight. I remember just staring at it for a few seconds, because suddenly my brain was connecting dots I didn't want to connect. The forum, the warnings, my mum burning things, the message telling me to check the desk, and now this. I picked up the bag. It felt heavier than it should have. Cold too, even though the room wasn't cold. I loosened the drawstring slowly and poured the contents into my hand. It was a ring, old, silver, thick band, but the metal looked wrong, not polished, not smooth. The surface was covered in tiny scratches and dents, like it had been scraped against concrete for years. There was a symbol engraved on the top, something geometric. 3 intersecting lines forming a shape I didn't recognize. And the second my skin touched it, the computer behind me made a loud notification ping. I jumped and turned around. The chat box had exploded with messages, line after line appearing rapidly. You shouldn't hold it. Put it down. Put it down now. Then a final message appeared. Slower, more deliberate. It knows you now. My fingers immediately opened. The ring clattered onto the desk. But the moment it touched the wood, something happened. The lights in the basement flickered. Not a quick blink. A long flicker. Like the electricity was struggling. The computer monitor went black for half a second, then came back on. But the chat box was gone. The entire browser window had closed, like it had never been open. I walked back to the desk slowly. The ring was still sitting there. But now the symbol looked different. Or maybe I was just imagining it, because I could swear the scratches on the metal looked deeper now, like something had dragged across it. I reached out to pick it up again, then froze, because behind me I heard footsteps, upstairs, slow, heavy. Not the normal sound of my mum walking around the house. These sounded uneven, like someone dragging their feet across the floor. And then I heard her voice, except it didn't sound like my mum. It sounded strained, breathless, like she had been running. She was standing directly above the basement door, and she said something that made the blood in my body turn to ice. She said, "Did you open the desk?" I didn't answer. I couldn't, because I realized something terrifying. The basement door was still locked from the inside, which meant she hadn't come down yet. She was still upstairs, standing at the top of the stairs, waiting. And then she said the second sentence, much quieter, almost whispering. "Did you touch the ring?" The ring on the desk suddenly rolled slightly, just a few millimeters, like something had nudged it. And upstairs, my mum started crying. Not normal crying, It sounded like someone trying to stay quiet while panicking, like she knew something terrible had just happened. And in that moment, I remembered the final message from the forum. The entity may seek a new point of contact within the family. The crying upstairs didn't stop. It got worse. Not louder, exactly, but heavier. Like every breath my mum took was dragging something painful out of her chest. The sound carried through the floorboards in these uneven bursts that made the entire house feel fragile, like the walls were listening. I was still standing in the basement office. The ring was on the desk. I hadn't touched it again, but I couldn't stop looking at it. There's something strange about objects when you suddenly believe they're dangerous. Your brain starts studying every tiny detail like it's trying to solve a puzzle that could kill you. The scratches on the metal, the weird symbol carved into the top, and the way the ring had moved. It wasn't rolling anymore, but it had definitely shifted from where I dropped it. Maybe an inch closer to the edge of the desk. Gravity, I told myself. Desk probably isn't level. Except, I knew that desk. I'd leaned drinks on it for years without them sliding. Upstairs, my mum's voice cracked again. Please. It sounded like she was talking to someone, but I hadn't heard another voice. Just her. Then something else. Footsteps. Except they weren't moving normally. It sounded like someone pacing slowly across the kitchen floor, dragging one foot slightly every few steps. My stomach twisted, because my mum didn't walk like that. She had arthritis in one knee, but she didn't drag her feet. And more importantly, she had been outside a minute ago, burning that box. I moved toward the basement stairs. Each step creaked louder than usual. When I reached the door at the top, I stopped. My hand hovered over the knob, and I realized something. The house smelled different. Not like smoke anymore. Something else. Something metallic. Not strong. Just faint. Like the smell you get after touching a bunch of coins. I slowly unlocked the door and opened it. The kitchen lights were on. My mom was sitting at the table. Her back was facing me. Her shoulders were shaking slightly. For a second, I just watched, because something about the way she was sitting felt wrong. Her posture looked stiff, rigid, like her muscles were locked in place. "Mom," I said. She didn't turn around immediately. The dragging footsteps I heard earlier stopped, which didn't make sense, because she hadn't moved. Then she spoke. "I told him to burn it." Her voice sounded hoarse, like she'd been screaming earlier. I stepped into the kitchen. "What?" She slowly turned around, and I felt this deep, instinctive drop in my stomach. Her eyes looked wrong. Not possessed. Not glowing. Nothing dramatic like that. Just wide. Way too wide. Like someone who hadn't slept in days. "You opened the desk," she said quietly. I nodded. Her gaze dropped to my hands. "Did you touch it?" I hesitated. Just for a second. But that was enough. Her face drained of color so fast it actually scared me. "Oh God," she whispered. "Oh no." She stood up so abruptly the chair scraped violently across the floor. "You weren't supposed to find it." "What is it?" I asked. She walked past me quickly toward the basement door. "Where is it?" "On the desk." She froze halfway down the stairs, like those words physically stopped her. Then she turned around slowly. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. "You left it down there?" I nodded again, her eyes filled with tears instantly. "That's worse." "What do you mean, worse?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked back into the kitchen and grabbed her phone from the counter. Her hands were shaking so badly, she dropped it once before unlocking it. Then she opened something, an email, and turned the screen toward me. The sender name made my chest tighten. Dad. The email had been sent 2 days before he died. The subject line said, "Read this if I don't make it." My mum must have seen it when he first sent it, because the message was already marked as opened. She scrolled down slowly. "I didn't understand it at first," she said. Her voice sounded hollow. "I thought he was delirious from the medication." I started reading, and every line made things worse. "If you're reading this, it means I didn't fix it in time. The ring needs to be destroyed. I tried everything people on the forum suggested. Salt, burial, running water. Nothing worked. Fire is the only thing that weakens it, but it doesn't destroy the attachment completely. That's the problem." My throat tightened. "What attachment?" My mom kept scrolling. "It doesn't stay in the object forever. Eventually it needs a host. That's why the clothes had to go. The fibers carry traces. If it spreads through the house, it becomes harder to isolate." I looked up. "The clothes?" She nodded slowly. "That's why I burned them." I felt a cold wave move through my chest. "You knew?" Her face twisted. "I thought it was nonsense." She wiped her eyes. "Until the night he came home with the ring." The room felt smaller suddenly. "What do you mean?" My mom looked toward the hallway like she was checking if someone was there. Then she said something that made every nerve in my body tighten. "Your dad didn't buy it." "Then where did it come from?" Her voice cracked. "He found it." "Where?" She swallowed hard. "In someone else's mouth." The sentence sat in the air like a physical object. I stared at her. "What?" She leaned against the counter like her legs were giving out. "He worked late that night, remember? Said he stopped at a gas station on the highway." I nodded slowly. "There was a man in the parking lot," she continued. "He was sitting in his car with the door open. Your dad thought he was drunk." Her voice started shaking again. "So he walked over to check on him." My chest felt tight. "And?" She looked me directly in the eyes. "He was dead." A long silence filled the kitchen. Then she whispered the worst part. "His mouth was open." I felt goosebumps crawl up my arms. And the ring was sitting on his tongue. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Then my phone vibrated in my pocket. The sound made both of us jump. I pulled it out. A notification. Instagram. A DM request. From an account with no profile picture. The username was a random string of numbers. My mom leaned closer. "Who is it?" "I don't know." I opened the message. It contained one sentence. Just 5 words. And the second I read them, something upstairs made a loud thud, like a door slamming shut on its own. The message said, "You left it alone downstairs." Then another message appeared. That was a mistake. At that exact moment, the basement lights turned off, and from somewhere in the darkness below us, we heard something moving. Not footsteps. Not exactly. More like metal scraping slowly across wood. The ring. Something was dragging the ring across my dad's desk, and it was heading toward the stairs. The sound from the basement didn't stop. It continued. Slow, deliberate. Metal scraping against wood, then pausing, then scraping again, like something was learning how to move. My mum grabbed my arm so tightly her nails dug into my skin. "Don't go down there," she whispered. But neither of us moved, because the sound was getting closer to the stairs. You could hear the pattern now. Scrape, pause, scrape, pause. Each movement followed by the faintest tick, like metal hitting something hard. The steps. The ring was hitting the wooden steps. Except that didn't make sense. Rings don't climb stairs. I felt my phone vibrate again. Another message. Same account. Same empty profile picture. I didn't want to open it, but my thumb moved anyway. The message said, "It's easier once it learns gravity." A second message arrived right after. "Your father figured that part out too late." My throat went dry. I looked at my mum. "Did Dad ever say anything about it moving?" Her face tightened. She didn't answer immediately, which told me everything. "Yes," she finally said. "How?" Her voice came out almost like a confession. "He said it moved when he wasn't looking." Another scrape echoed from the basement stairs. Closer. My mum flinched. "When he first found it," she continued quietly, "he left it on the kitchen counter. And the next morning, it was in the hallway." My stomach twisted. He thought he misplaced it. The scraping sound stopped. Right below the basement door. Total silence. Then something tapped lightly against the wood on the other side. Once. Twice. 3 times. Not random. Intentional. Like someone knocking politely. My mum stepped backward. "No," she whispered. No. Another message appeared on my phone. "It prefers invitations." The basement door handle slowly turned halfway, then stopped. It couldn't open from the other side. The lock was still engaged, which meant whatever was down there knew the door existed. but not how it worked. Yet, I backed away from the door. My heart was pounding so loudly, I could feel it in my throat. My mum suddenly grabbed my wrist. "We have to burn it." "Burn the ring?" "Yes." Her voice was desperate. "Your father said fire weakens it." "But the fire pit's outside." "I don't care." She rushed to the kitchen drawer and pulled out the long barbecue lighter we used for the grill. Then she grabbed the metal fireplace tongs leaning by the wall. "We're not touching it again," she said. Another message appeared on my phone. "You're too late for that." The basement door handle turned again, further this time. Metal grinding softly, like the mechanism inside the shower was being forced. My mom whispered something under her breath that sounded like a prayer. Then she slowly unlocked the door. I grabbed her arm. "What are you doing?" Her voice trembled. "If it figures the door out first, we lose control." The lock clicked open, and instantly, the handle twisted all the way down. The door pushed inward about an inch. Darkness filled the stairwell. Cold air spilled up from below. And that metallic smell was stronger now. Much stronger. My mum flicked the lighter on. The tiny flame barely lit the first few steps. The rest of the basement staircase disappeared into blackness. For a few seconds, nothing moved. Then we heard it again. A tiny tap against wood. But this time, it came from halfway up the stairs. I leaned slightly to the side so I could see the steps. And that's when I saw it. The ring. Sitting on the third step. Completely still. The flame from the lighter flickered across the metal. And I noticed something that made my chest tighten. The scratches on its surface weren't random anymore. They looked like lines. Thin grooves carved deeper than before. Like something had been scratching the metal from the inside. My mom slowly lowered the fireplace tongs. "Don't touch it with your hands," she whispered. She leaned down carefully. The tongs clamped around the ring. For a second, nothing happened. Then the metal inside the tongs jerked violently. The ring twisted hard enough to make the tongs rattle. My mum gasped but held on. "Jesus!" The ring spun in place inside the tongs like something alive, not rolling, spinning, faster and faster. Then suddenly, it stopped. Completely still again. My mum lifted it slowly. The second it left the stair, my phone buzzed violently. Another message. Then another. Then 5 more in rapid succession. I looked down. The messages were stacking on top of each other. "It doesn't like being lifted. Your father learned that part in the garage. That's when it broke his fingers." My stomach dropped. I looked up at my mum. She was already halfway across the kitchen toward the back door, holding the tongs out in front of her like she was carrying a venomous animal. The ring started shaking again, this time harder, metal clattering against the tongs with sharp ting, ting, ting sounds. We stepped outside. Cold air hit my face. The backyard was still smoky from earlier. The fire pit was glowing faintly with leftover embers. My mum rushed over and kicked the metal lid aside. "Open it up," she said. I grabbed the metal poker leaning against the fence and stirred the embers. Orange light flared back to life. The ring started vibrating violently now. The tongs were shaking in her hands. "Hurry!" Flames slowly caught the remaining charcoal. Heat rising. The ring twisted again. Then something happened that made my blood run cold. A sound. Not metal, not wind. A voice. It came from the ring. Very faint, but unmistakable. A dry whisper. Like air moving through a throat that hadn't worked in years. It said, "Don't." My mom screamed and dropped the tongs. The ring fell directly into the center of the flames. For half a second, nothing happened. Then the fire exploded upward. A violent burst of sparks shot into the air, like someone dumped gasoline into the pit. And from inside the flames, a scream erupted. Not human, not animal. Something deeper. A raw, tearing sound that vibrated in my chest like standing next to a jet engine. The fire twisted violently. The flames bent sideways like something inside was trying to escape. Then my phone vibrated one last time. I looked down. One final message from the account. Just 4 words. "Now it needs you." Behind me. The back door of the house slowly creaked open, and footsteps began walking through the kitchen. But my mum and I were both standing outside, which meant someone else had just come into the house. The back door didn't slam. It opened slowly. That's what made it worse. If it had burst open, or if something had rushed out, my brain might have processed it as panic or danger. Something instinctive. But this was different. The door eased inward, inch by inch, like someone inside the house was taking their time, like they weren't worried about being caught. My mum and I were still standing by the fire pit. The flames were still twisting unnaturally high for a pile of half-dead charcoal. The ring was somewhere inside that orange glow, buried under the burning wood and ash. But the screaming had stopped, completely, which somehow made everything feel 10 times more wrong. The backyard suddenly felt too quiet. Even the wind had died down. My mom grabbed my arm again. Her voice was barely audible. "Someone's inside." I didn't answer, because I was staring at the open doorway. The kitchen light was still on, bright yellow spilling across the wooden deck. And slowly, a shadow moved across the floor inside. Footsteps followed. Heavy, measured, not dragging like before. These were steady, intentional. Someone walked across the kitchen floor, then stopped. My phone vibrated again in my hand. I almost dropped it. The same account had sent another message. But this time, it wasn't text. It was a picture. A photo. Taken inside my house. My stomach twisted as the image loaded. It was the kitchen. Taken from the hallway. You could see the table, the sink, the back door. And through the open doorway, you could see me and my mum standing in the yard. The picture had been taken seconds ago. My hands started shaking. "Mum." She looked at me. I turned the screen toward her. Her face collapsed instantly. "Oh God." Before either of us could say anything else, a voice came from inside the house. A familiar voice. A voice that made every nerve in my body lock up. My dad's voice. "Why are you both outside?" My mum gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth. "No," she whispered. The voice came again. Closer this time. "It's cold out there." I felt something deep in my chest twist violently. Because the voice sounded exactly like him. Not distorted, not monstrous, just normal. The way he used to sound when he came home from work. The footsteps started again, crossing the kitchen, heading toward the back door. My mum grabbed my shoulder. "We have to leave." But neither of us moved. Because part of our brains still wanted to believe it. That impossible, stupid hope that grief creates. Maybe we burned the wrong thing. Maybe he wasn't dead. Maybe... The figure stepped into the doorway, and every bit of that hope died instantly. It looked like my dad. At first glance. Same height, same build. Same old blue flannel shirt he used to wear around the house. But the details were wrong. Subtly. Terribly wrong. His skin looked too tight across his face, like it had been stretched slightly too far over his skull. His smile was wider than it should be. Not by much. Just enough. But his eyes weren't looking at us. They were looking at the fire pit, at the flames, at the place where the ring was burning. And when he spoke again, his mouth barely moved. "You shouldn't have done that." My mum started crying. Not loud, just broken. "You're not him," she said. The thing in the doorway tilted its head slightly, confused, like it didn't understand the sentence. "I am," it replied calmly. "No." Her voice cracked. "You're what followed him." The thing smiled again. That same stretched smile. Then it stepped out onto the deck. Its movements were wrong. Not jerky, not unnatural, just slightly delayed, like the body was half a second behind whatever was controlling it. It walked slowly toward the fire pit, and with each step, something else changed. The skin around its mouth began to crack, tiny splits forming at the corners. At first, I thought it was just the firelight playing tricks on my eyes. Then the cracks widened, dark lines stretching up toward the cheeks. The smile growing larger. Too large. My mum backed away. No. The thing stopped 2 feet from the fire pit, the flames reflected in its eyes. And then it did something that made my entire body go cold. It inhaled. Deeply. Like someone smelling fresh food. Then it whispered. Almost finished. My phone buzzed again. Another message from the account. My hands felt numb as I opened it. 3 words. It shed him. I looked up just in time to see it happen. The skin on the thing's face split open. Not dramatically, not like something bursting. More like fabric tearing slowly. The mouth opened wider. The cracks along the cheeks stretching further and further until the entire lower half of the face peeled downward slightly. And beneath it, there was another mouth. not shaped like a human mouth. Longer. Full of teeth that didn't match. Thin, sharp, layered too densely. My mum screamed. The thing looked at us. And when it spoke again, the voice was no longer my dad's. It was deeper, wet, like something talking through a throat filled with thick liquid. You burned the door. The flames in the pit suddenly died down. Just like that, the fire collapsed inward, the charcoal crumbling, and in the center of the ashes, the ring was still there, completely untouched, not even discolored. The thing looked down at it, then back at me, and that horrible second mouth smiled. "You opened it," it said. My phone vibrated again. The final message. The account name had changed. It no longer showed random numbers. Now it showed a username I recognized. J. Harper, 58. My dad's account. The message was short. Just one sentence. "It needs somewhere warm to sleep." The thing stepped forward. Its eyes locked onto mine. And I suddenly understood something my dad had been trying to explain in that forum post. It wasn't trying to possess people. It wasn't even attached to the ring. The ring was just how it traveled, how it waited, how it found the next person willing to pick it up. My mum suddenly grabbed the metal poker from the ground and swung it as hard as she could. The blow hit the thing's head with a sickening crack. For a split second it stumbled sideways, and that was enough. I grabbed the fire pit lid and slammed it down over the ashes. Then I dragged the entire pit over and dumped the contents onto the gravel. The ring rolled out, spinning wildly across the ground. I didn't think. I just kicked it. Hard. It shot across the yard and disappeared through the open gate into the dark street beyond. Behind us, the thing made a sound I'll never forget. Not anger, not pain. Hunger, raw and furious. Its body collapsed suddenly, the flannel shirt crumpling to the deck like an empty sack. And the thing inside it was gone. Just gone. No footprints. No shadow. Nothing. My mum and I stood there for a long time, neither of us speaking. The police came later. Neighbors had reported screaming. They searched the house, the yard, the street. Of course, they didn't find anything. No ring, no footprints, nothing unusual except the burned clothes and the destroyed fire pit. The official explanation was grief, stress, shared hallucination. You know how those reports go. But that's not the reason I'm telling this story now. 3 years have passed since that night. I moved out of that house. Different city, different state, different life. For a while, nothing happened. I convinced myself it was over. Until last night. I was scrolling through Reddit before bed, just wasting time, and I saw a post on a deep web forum someone had screenshotted. A thread. The title read, "If I die before resolving this, what happens to the object?" My stomach dropped instantly, because the username of the person asking the question wasn't my dad. It was someone else. And under their post, there was a reply, posted only a few minutes earlier, by an account named J. Harper, 58. The reply said, "Destroy or remove all contaminated items immediately." Then another line appeared under it while I was staring at the screen. A second reply from the same account. Just 4 words. It found someone else. We asked the Ouija board about the graveyard ghost. It said, "He's behind you." I almost didn't record tonight. Not because I didn't have a story. Actually, the opposite. I've had this one sitting in my notes for like 3 weeks, and every time I open the file, I just kind of stare at it and then close it again. It's 2:18 a.m. right now. I know that because I checked my phone a second ago, after getting one of those useless screen time report notifications that makes you feel mildly ashamed of your life choices. My desk lamp is the only light on in my apartment. There's rain tapping the window like someone lightly drumming their fingers. And I've reheated the same cup of coffee twice. You know when your brain is tired but also too wired to sleep? That's where I'm at. I kept thinking about this story tonight while scrolling TikTok and pretending I'd go to bed after one more video. And eventually, I realized the reason I keep putting it off is because telling it out loud makes it feel real again. Which is annoying, because for a long time I convinced myself nothing actually happened. But then last week, one of the guys from that night sent a message in our old group chat. And after that, yeah, I don't think ignoring it is working anymore. So if you're listening to this late at night, maybe with headphones on, maybe half asleep like I am right now, this happened to me and 3 friends about a year ago. And it started with the dumbest possible idea, a Ouija board. Part 1. The weird part is that none of us even believed in that stuff. Not really. It was October, which already explains half of the bad decisions. You know how everything feels a little different that time of year. Halloween decorations everywhere. Those stupid pumpkin spice ads. Everyone pretending they love horror movies for a few weeks. We were hanging out in Tyler's apartment that night. Tyler lived in this slightly sketchy complex outside downtown Phoenix. The kind of place where the parking lot lights flicker, and there's always at least one car alarm going off somewhere at night. There were 4 of us total. Tyler, the guy whose place it was. Me, Jess, who I've known since high school, and Marcus, Tyler's co-worker from Starbucks, who I'd only met twice before that night. We weren't doing anything interesting, just sitting around eating McDonald's nuggets and watching random YouTube videos on Tyler's TV. Someone had pulled up one of those ghost hunting channels where people wander around abandoned hospitals whispering into EMF meters. Marcus was the one who said it. "Okay, but if ghosts are real," he said, pointing at the screen, "why has nobody ever just asked them questions?" Jess immediately rolled her eyes. "People do," she said. "That's literally the point of a Ouija board." Tyler laughed. "My grandma used to say those were portals to hell." And I swear Marcus's face lit up like someone had just pitched him the greatest idea ever. "Wait," he said. "Do you guys want to actually try one?" The conversation should have ended there, but instead Tyler said, "I think there's an old graveyard like 10 minutes from here." Which is how we ended up at Ridgewood Cemetery around midnight, with a $19.99 Ouija board from Walmart. Ridgewood isn't one of those huge historic cemeteries you see in movies. It's small, old, and weirdly quiet. It's tucked between a highway and a half-abandoned shopping plaza that used to have a Kmart. There's a Circle K across the street that's open all night, so the area has this strange mix of gas station lights and total darkness. When we parked, Tyler grabbed a flashlight from his glove compartment. Jess immediately said, "If a cop shows up, I'm blaming you guys." Marcus held up the Ouija board box like a trophy. "This is historical research. I remember the air feeling colder than it should have been. Not freezing or anything. Just that dry desert night chill where everything smells like dust and asphalt." We walked through the cemetery gate, which wasn't even locked. That probably should have been our first warning. The place looked older than I expected. Most of the headstones were small and faded. Some leaned sideways like they'd slowly sunk into the ground over the years. The highway noise hummed constantly in the background. But weirdly, it almost made the place feel quieter, like white noise. Tyler found a flat stone bench near the middle of the cemetery. "Perfect seance location," he said. Jess groaned. "You're such an idiot." But she sat down anyway. Marcus opened the Ouija board box like we were unboxing some new gaming console. He laid the board across the stone bench and placed the little plastic planchette in the middle. For a second, nobody moved. We all kind of looked at each other like, are we actually doing this? Finally, Tyler said, "Okay, everyone touch it." So we did. 4 fingertips resting lightly on this stupid piece of plastic. Marcus cleared his throat dramatically. Hello, spirits." Jess laughed. "You sound like you're ordering food." Marcus tried again. "Okay, seriously, if anyone is here, can you talk to us?" Nothing happened. Obviously. We sat there for maybe 30 seconds. Jess started giggling again. "Yeah, this is..." The planchette moved. Not a lot, just a tiny slide, like someone had nudged it. Everyone froze. "Did you push it?" Tyler asked. "No," Marcus said immediately. Jess looked at me. "I thought you..." "I didn't." The planchette moved again, this time a little more. It slid slowly toward yes. And I know what everyone says about Ouija boards, that someone is always pushing it without realizing. Idiomotor effect. Subconscious movement. I've read all that. But the thing is, the way it moved didn't feel like someone pushing. It felt like something pulling. Marcus leaned forward. "Okay, who are we talking to?" The planchette began sliding again. S, then A, then M. "Sam," Tyler said. "That's probably a really common name." Jess nodded. "Yeah, there's probably like 10 Sams buried here." Marcus asked another question. "Sam, are you buried here?" The planchette paused, then slowly moved. Yes. At that point, it still felt kind of exciting, like a weird party trick. But then Marcus asked the question that changed everything. "Sam, are you the ghost people talk about here?" We all looked at him. Jess frowned. "What ghost?" Marcus shrugged. "I saw a post about this cemetery on Reddit. Something about a guy who follows people around." Tyler laughed nervously. "Bro, why would you say that here?" The planchette started moving again. Slow, deliberate. No. No, Jess said. Marcus frowned. Then who is the ghost? The planchette stopped. For maybe 5 seconds it didn't move. And I remember hearing the highway noise get louder for some reason, like a truck was passing. Then the planchette began sliding again, fast this time. He. Jess leaned closer. He. Marcus whispered. Who is he? The planchette moved again. Standing. The word formed slowly. Standing. Tyler shifted uncomfortably. Standing where? And that's when the planchette moved faster than it had all night, straight across the board, letter after letter. He's behind you. He's behind you. Nobody spoke, not immediately, because the weirdest part wasn't the message. It was the way Jess's face changed when she read it. She wasn't looking at the board anymore. She was staring past us, into the darkness behind Tyler. And very quietly, she said, "Guys, who's that standing by the trees?" Jess didn't sound like she was joking. That's the first thing that made my stomach drop. Normally, Jess is the type of person who ruins horror movies because she laughs at the wrong moments. The kind of person who makes sarcastic comments during the scary parts just to break the tension. But when she spoke this time, her voice was thin, quiet, like someone trying not to breathe too loudly. "Guys, who's that standing by the trees?" For a second, none of us turned around. I know that sounds stupid, but it's true. When someone says something like that, your brain kind of freezes, like it's waiting for the punchline. Tyler laughed first. Not a real laugh. More like the kind people do when they're nervous and trying to convince themselves everything is normal. "Very funny," he said. Jess didn't laugh back. She was still staring behind him. And that's when I turned. The cemetery wasn't pitch black. The light from the gas station across the street bled faintly through the fence. And Tyler's flashlight was lying on the ground, pointing sideways across a row of headstones. The beam cut through the darkness just enough to see shapes. Gravestones, trees, the chain-link fence, and something else. A figure standing maybe 30 feet away, perfectly still. At first, my brain tried to make sense of it in normal ways. Someone visiting a grave, a random person walking through, maybe someone who lived nearby cutting through the cemetery. But something about the way the figure stood made that explanation fall apart. They weren't moving, not shifting weight, not walking, not even swaying slightly like people naturally do when standing. Just standing there, watching. Marcus whispered, "Is that a person?" Tyler turned around, and the moment he saw it, his entire body locked up. "Nope," he said immediately. "Nope. We're done." He grabbed the flashlight and stood up so fast the Ouija board slid off the bench and hit the ground. The plastic planchette skittered across the dirt. Jess finally looked away from the trees. "Did you guys see him too?" Tyler was already backing away. "Yeah, I saw him." Marcus squinted toward the darkness. "Maybe it's just some dude." "Then why hasn't he moved?" I asked. Nobody answered that. The figure was still there, tall, thin, standing beside a cluster of trees that lined the edge of the cemetery. Tyler lifted the flashlight and pointed it toward the shape. The beam cut through the darkness. For half a second, the light landed directly on the figure, and that's when I felt something cold move through my chest, because the light didn't reveal a normal person. The man, if it was a man, was standing at a strange angle. His shoulders were slightly hunched. His arms hung straight down like loose ropes. But his head was tilted so far to one side it looked wrong. Almost like his neck had bent in a way it shouldn't. The flashlight beam shook. Tyler muttered, "What the hell?" The figure stepped backward. Not turned, not walked. Stepped backward. Slowly. Still facing us. And then it disappeared behind the trees. For a moment, the four of us just stood there. The cemetery felt 10 times quieter than before. Even the highway noise sounded far away now. Marcus finally spoke. "Okay," he said quietly. "That was weird." Tyler grabbed the Ouija board box and shoved everything inside it without even folding it properly. "Yeah, and that's why we're leaving." Jess looked back toward the trees again. "You guys saw how he was standing, right?" "Yeah," I said. Marcus shrugged nervously. "Maybe he was just stretching or something." Jess stared at him. "Stretching?" Marcus didn't answer. Tyler was already walking toward the gate. "Let's go." And honestly, none of us argued. We reached the car in less than a minute. Tyler unlocked it and we all piled in faster than necessary. The moment the doors shut, it felt like the tension released a little. You know how being inside a car suddenly makes everything outside feel distant and harmless? That's exactly what it felt like. Marcus exhaled. "Okay, yeah, that guy was creepy." Tyler started the engine. "I'm telling you right now, if he starts running toward the car, I'm not waiting for you idiots." Jess leaned forward between the seats. "Did anyone else notice something weird?" "What?" I asked. She hesitated. "When the flashlight hit him, I couldn't see his face." Marcus shrugged. "It was dark." "No," Jess said. "I mean, like there was nothing there." The car went quiet again. Tyler pulled out of the cemetery lot and onto the road. The bright lights from the Circle K gas station suddenly flooded the windshield. And just like that, everything felt normal again. Cars driving by. People pumping gas. Someone walking out of the store carrying a giant soda. Marcus laughed nervously. "See? Civilization." Tyler drove for about 30 seconds before saying something that made my stomach twist again. "Where did he go?" Jess frowned. "What do you mean?" Tyler pointed to the side mirror. "I've been watching the gate." We all turned around. The cemetery entrance was still visible behind us, but the path leading out was empty. No one walking. No one leaving. No figure coming out of the trees. Marcus said, "Maybe he went deeper into the cemetery." Tyler didn't respond. He just kept driving. We hit the next red light about a minute later. The kind where you're forced to sit there way longer than necessary. Marcus pulled out his phone. "I'm Googling this place." Jess rolled her eyes. You're gonna find some creepy urban legend and make it worse. Marcus ignored her. A few seconds later, his face changed. Guys? Tyler sighed. What now? Marcus turned the phone toward us. The screen showed a Reddit thread. The title read, "Don't go to Ridgewood Cemetery after midnight." Jess groaned. Oh my God. Marcus started reading. Multiple people claim there's a man who appears in the cemetery late at night, always standing still, watching from the trees. Tyler muttered, "Great." Marcus kept scrolling. Some people say he follows them when they leave. The light turned green. Tyler stepped on the gas. Cool story. Love that. Marcus continued reading anyway. There's another post here. Someone asked a Ouija board about the cemetery ghost. Jess immediately looked up. What? Marcus read the comment slowly. They said the board spelled out the same message every time. A cold feeling crept into my stomach again. What message? I asked. Marcus swallowed. Then he read it. He's behind you. Nobody spoke for several seconds. And then Jess said something that made my skin crawl. Guys. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I think we forgot something. Tyler sighed. The board. Jess shook her head slowly. No. She turned toward the back window of the car, her eyes wide, and in a voice that sounded like it was fighting to stay calm, she said, "The back seat wasn't empty when we got in." For a moment, I genuinely thought Jess was joking. The way she said it sounded wrong, but my brain still tried to force it into something normal. A prank. A weird comment. Maybe she was trying to scare Marcus back after that Reddit thread. Tyler didn't even look back. "What are you talking about?" he said. Jess didn't answer immediately. She was staring through the rear window of the car. Not blinking. Just staring. The traffic light behind us turned yellow, then red again, and the glow from the intersection spilled into the car. I could see her reflection in the glass. Her face had gone pale in a way I'd never seen before. Marcus laughed nervously. "Okay, if you're messing with us." "I'm not," Jess said quietly. Something about her tone made the air inside the car feel tighter. Tyler sighed. "Jess." "No, seriously," she said. Before we got in the car, I looked back for a second. Marcus shifted in his seat. "And?" Jess swallowed. "And there was someone sitting back there." The words just hung there. Tyler let out a short laugh. "You're saying someone got into my car? In the cemetery parking lot? Without us noticing?" Jess didn't answer. Marcus slowly turned around in his seat. The back seat looked empty. Just Tyler's hoodie tossed in the corner, and an empty water bottle rolling on the floor. Marcus turned back. "See?" Jess shook her head slowly. He was sitting right in the middle seat. Tyler rubbed his face. "You probably saw a shadow." Jess looked down at her hands. "He was looking at me." Nobody spoke after that. Tyler accelerated a little faster than necessary. The road out of that area curves past an abandoned strip mall. The building used to be a Kmart or something like that. The big red letters had been taken down years ago, but you could still see the faded outline where the sign used to be. The parking lot was empty except for a few broken shopping carts pushed against the curb. Marcus was still holding his phone. "I'm serious," he said. "There are like 20 posts about this cemetery." Tyler muttered, "Stop reading them." Marcus ignored him. One guy said he saw someone walking between graves who never got closer or farther away, just stayed the same distance no matter how fast he walked. Jess spoke without looking up. "That's not what we saw." Marcus nodded slowly. "Yeah." I glanced back through the rear window again. The cemetery entrance was long gone behind us. Just dark road now. Street lights every 100 feet. Everything normal. Everything fine. I remember thinking we were overreacting. Just adrenaline from the weird moment in the cemetery. Our brains filling in the blanks. Then Tyler's phone buzzed in the cup holder. The notification lit up the car for a split second. Marcus glanced down at it. "Someone messaged you." Tyler frowned. "Who?" Marcus picked up the phone. "It's from Jess." Jess looked up immediately. "What?" Marcus held up the screen. "Your name." Jess blinked. "I didn't send anything." Marcus turned the phone toward us. The group chat was open, the one we had all used earlier to plan hanging out. But there was a new message. From Jess. Sent just now. Tyler slowed the car, slightly. Jess leaned forward. "That's not me." Marcus read the message out loud. "Did you forget something?" Nobody laughed. Tyler looked at Jess. "Okay, if you're messing with us." Jess grabbed her phone and opened the same chat. Her screen was blank. "No message," she said. Marcus refreshed the chat. The message was still there. Tyler said quietly, "Delete it." Marcus tapped the screen. But before he could do anything, another message appeared. Same sender. Jess. He doesn't like when people leave. The car felt suddenly smaller. Jess whispered, "I didn't type that." Marcus showed her the phone again. "Your name is right there." Tyler gripped the steering wheel harder. "Block her." Jess stared at him. "Block me?" "I mean the account," Tyler said quickly. Marcus opened the contact info, but the number wasn't Jess's. It wasn't any number. Just a blank line where the phone number should be. Marcus frowned. "That's weird." Tyler said, "Delete the chat." Marcus tried. The screen froze, and then another message appeared. "He followed you," Jess whispered. "Stop reading them." Marcus looked like he wanted to throw the phone out the window. The typing indicator appeared. 3 grey dots, blinking, waiting. Then another message came through. "Check the back seat." Tyler slammed the brakes. The car screeched slightly as it stopped on the side of the empty road. "What are you doing?" Marcus said. Tyler turned around slowly. The interior light flicked on. We all looked at the back seat. Empty. Just the hoodie, water bottle, nothing else. Tyler exhaled loudly. See? Marcus laughed nervously again. Yeah, okay, this is stupid. Jess didn't look relieved. She kept staring at the space behind Marcus's shoulder. It wasn't empty earlier, she said. Marcus turned again. Jess, there's literally nothing. The phone in his hand vibrated. Another message. Marcus looked down, and his face changed instantly. Tyler noticed. What? Marcus didn't answer. Tyler grabbed the phone. The new message read, "He's still there." Tyler frowned. There's nothing there. Marcus said quietly, "Scroll up." Tyler did. The earlier messages were gone. Completely gone. The chat history was empty except for one single message, sent less than 10 seconds ago. "He's still there," Jess whispered. "Look again." Tyler slowly turned his head toward the back seat. The interior light flickered once. Just a quick blink. But in that fraction of a second, I swear, there was something sitting there. A shape. Too tall for the seat. Head bent sideways at an unnatural angle. And when the light stabilized again, the seat was empty. Tyler didn't move. Marcus whispered, "Did you see?" Tyler slammed the car into drive. "We're not stopping again." The engine roared as he accelerated. Nobody argued. Nobody even spoke. We just drove. Streetlights passing overhead, one after another. The road stretching into darkness. Marcus finally whispered something after about a minute. "Guys." Tyler didn't respond. Marcus stared at the phone again. "It just sent another message." Jess said quietly, "What does it say?" Marcus swallowed. His voice sounded dry. "It says..." He hesitated. Then he read it. "He's getting closer to the front." Nobody spoke after Marcus read that message. Not for a long time. The kind of silence that feels heavy, like the air inside the car has thickened, and every breath has to push through it. Tyler was driving faster now. Not crazy fast, but faster than he should have been on that road. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel, and the engine had that strained hum like it wanted to complain, but knew better. Streetlights passed overhead one by one. Each time the car moved through the yellow glow, the inside lit up for half a second. Then darkness again. Light. Dark. Light. Dark. It made everything inside the car feel staged. Like each flash was a camera taking a photo of us in slow motion. Marcus was staring at the phone like it was something poisonous. Jess hadn't turned around again. She was facing forward now, sitting stiff between the seats, arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold her ribs in place. I kept looking in the side mirror, not the back seat, the mirror. Because something in my brain had decided it was safer to look at reflections than to look directly. Marcus whispered, "Maybe someone hacked the phone." Nobody responded. He said it again, louder this time. Phones get hacked all the time. People spoof numbers, send messages, whatever. Still nothing. The typing dots appeared again on the screen. Marcus inhaled sharply. "Tyler," he said quietly. Tyler didn't look away from the road. "What?" "It's typing again." Jess shook her head immediately. "Don't read it." Marcus didn't respond. The message appeared. He stared at it. Then his breathing changed. Tyler noticed. "What does it say?" Marcus hesitated. Marcus. His own name. Tyler glanced at him. "What?" Marcus turned the screen slowly. The message read, "Marcus, don't turn around." Marcus let out a shaky laugh. "Okay, yeah, that's not funny." Jess whispered from the back seat area between us. "Whoever is doing that can see us." Tyler said, "Nobody can see us." Marcus swallowed. "It just said my name." The phone vibrated again. Another message. Marcus looked down automatically, and then he froze. Tyler snapped, "Stop reading them." But Marcus already had. "It says," Marcus murmured, "that he's leaning forward." Tyler slammed the steering wheel. "Stop!" But it was too late. Because the moment Marcus said that, something changed in the car. Not a sound, not movement, just pressure. That's the only word I can think of. Like when you're underwater, and the deeper you go, the more your ears start to feel it. The air inside the car felt thicker. Marcus slowly lifted his eyes from the phone. "Do you guys feel that?" Jess nodded without speaking. Tyler muttered under his breath, "This is in our heads." Another streetlight passed over us. The inside of the car flashed bright for half a second, and this time I saw something. Not clearly, but enough. A shape rising behind Marcus. Too tall to be sitting. Bent forward between the seats. The light vanished before my brain could fully process it. Darkness filled the car again. I didn't breathe. Marcus whispered, "Did anyone else just..." The phone buzzed again. Marcus looked down automatically. The message said, "Marcus looked." Marcus made a choking sound. "I didn't..." The phone vibrated again immediately. Another message. "Now he knows." Tyler shouted, "Give me the phone." Marcus handed it over like it was burning his hand. Tyler rolled down the window and threw the phone into the darkness beside the road. It disappeared into the desert brush. For a moment, nobody said anything. Then Tyler exhaled. "There," Jess said quietly. "That wasn't the problem." Tyler glanced in the mirror. "What do you mean?" Jess slowly lifted her shaking hand and pointed toward the space between the two front seats. "Because it didn't send the messages." Tyler's voice dropped. "Then what did?" Jess swallowed. "It did." Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. And then something happened that I still can't explain. The car filled with a smell rotting, wet, like old soil mixed with something sweet and wrong too. The smell of something that had been buried too long. Marcus gagged. Oh my, something touched the back of my neck. Light, cold, not a hand, not exactly. More like long fingers, barely grazing the skin. I jerked forward violently. Tyler shouted, "What?" I couldn't answer, because in that moment, something moved beside Marcus's ear. A slow whisper, wet, close. Marcus's entire body stiffened. "What?" Tyler said. "Did it say?" Marcus didn't respond. Jess leaned forward slightly. "Marcus." Marcus's eyes were wide now. Wider than I'd ever seen a human being hold their eyes. His lips trembled. And finally he spoke. But his voice sounded wrong. Flat. Distant. It said, "We invited it." Tyler slammed the gas pedal harder. The engine screamed as the car surged down the empty road. The speedometer climbed. Nobody cared anymore. Marcus was breathing in short, sharp bursts. Jess kept glancing between us and the back seat, like she couldn't decide which direction was worse. Then the car's interior light turned on. None of us touched it. It just clicked on by itself. And in the soft yellow glow, we all saw it, standing in the back seat, its head bent sideways at that same broken angle. Its face. That's the part that never leaves my head. Because it wasn't blank. It wasn't shadow. It was worse. The skin looked stretched tight over bone. Grey. Cracked. And the mouth. The mouth was pulled open into something that might have been a smile if smiles were designed by something that had never actually seen a human before. Too wide. Too slow. Too patient. It leaned forward slightly. And when it spoke, its voice sounded exactly like Jess's. "Don't worry," it said softly. "You're almost home." Tyler didn't scream. That's something I remember clearly. People always imagine that when something truly terrifying happens, everyone starts yelling or panicking or losing control. But real fear sometimes does the opposite. It freezes you. It traps you inside your own skull, while everything else keeps moving. Tyler just stared forward. His hands were still gripping the steering wheel so tightly that the veins in his arms looked like cords. The thing behind us had just spoken. In Jess's voice. Perfectly. Same tone. Same softness. Same little pause she always does between words. Except Jess was sitting right next to me. And she looked like she had just watched someone dig their way out of their own grave. Nobody in the car breathed. Not one of us. Because breathing meant acknowledging it. The smell in the car got worse. Not just dirt anymore. Something sour, like meat that had been sealed away somewhere warm for too long. Marcus made a choking noise. I think he tried to turn his head, but the thing behind him moved slightly. Just enough. A slow shifting of its weight in the back seat. And Marcus froze immediately. Like an animal, realizing a predator is inches away. Jess whispered without turning around. "Don't move." Her voice shook violently. Tyler kept driving. The road ahead stretched empty and dark. The only sounds were the engine screaming and the wind tearing past the windows. Then the thing spoke again, still using Jess's voice. But the rhythm was wrong now, like someone imitating human speech after only hearing it a few times. "You asked about the ghost." Jess started crying quietly. Small, silent sobs she tried to swallow before they escaped. "You wanted to know where he was," Marcus whispered. "Please, stop." The thing leaned forward. I could see it in the reflection of the windshield, its head lowering between the seats, too close to Marcus's ear. "You found him." Tyler slammed the brakes, hard. The car skidded sideways slightly as the tires screamed against the pavement. We stopped in the middle of an empty intersection. The sudden silence was deafening. The engine idled roughly. Nobody moved. Then Tyler did something I will never forget. He turned around, slowly, deliberately. Marcus whispered urgently, "Tyler, don't." But Tyler already had. He looked directly into the back seat, right at it, for about 2 seconds. Then Tyler said something in a flat, empty voice. "You're not Sam." The thing didn't blink. Its head tilted a little further sideways. That awful, stretching smile widening slowly. No, Tyler's breathing became uneven. "Then what are you?" The thing answered immediately. And this time the voice changed. It wasn't Jess anymore, or Marcus, or any of us. It sounded deeper, older, like the sound was being pushed through a throat that had forgotten how to shape words. "I'm the one that answers." Jess covered her ears. Marcus squeezed his eyes shut. Tyler whispered, "You're not real." The thing leaned closer, and for the first time, it laughed. Not loud, just a wet, scraping sound, like rocks grinding together underwater. "You called me." The car lights flickered. Once, twice. The dashboard went dark for a moment, then came back. And when the lights returned, the back seat was empty, just gone. Like nothing had ever been there. Marcus gasped and turned around fully. "There's nothing there." Jess looked too. The seat was completely empty. No shape, no movement, no smell, nothing. Tyler looked like someone whose brain had just broken. He turned forward again slowly. "Did it leave?" Marcus laughed nervously. "Yeah." Jess wiped tears from her face. Maybe it was just..." Her sentence stopped halfway, because something moved outside the car. All of us saw it at the same time, across the intersection, under the streetlight, standing on the sidewalk. The figure, same height, same crooked neck, same impossible angle of its head, watching us. Marcus whispered, "How did it get out there?" The thing didn't move. It just stood, under the light. Tyler shifted the car into reverse slowly. Nobody told him to. He just did it. The car rolled backwards slightly. The figure remained still, watching. Then Tyler shifted into drive again and pressed the gas. We drove straight through the intersection, past the streetlight, past the figure. As we passed it, I couldn't stop myself. I looked. Just for a second. The thing turned its head as we drove by. Not its body, just the head, following us. Its eyes looked wrong. Too dark, too deep, like holes cut into something that wasn't meant to have a face. Then we were past it. The road stretched ahead again, and when I looked back, the sidewalk was empty. No figure. Nothing. Marcus started laughing. That kind of laugh that sounds closer to crying. "It's gone." Jess nodded weakly. "Yeah." Tyler kept driving. No one spoke for several minutes. Eventually, the city lights grew brighter. More traffic. More buildings. Normal life returning slowly around us. Marcus finally said, "I'm never touching one of those boards again." Nobody argued. Tyler dropped Jess off first. She didn't say goodbye. She just got out of the car and walked inside her apartment without looking back. Marcus got dropped off next. Before leaving, he looked at Tyler and said quietly, "Delete the group chat." Tyler nodded. Then it was just me and him. He dropped me off outside my building. Neither of us spoke about what happened. Not that night. Not for months. Eventually, the group chat died. Nobody mentioned the cemetery again. Life moved on. Or at least it tried to. Until last week, when the chat suddenly became active again. One message from Marcus. Just a photo. I opened it while standing in line at Starbucks. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. It was a screenshot from his phone camera, taken inside his car, late at night. The image was grainy, dark, but you could still see the back seat clearly. And sitting there, perfectly still, head tilted sideways, that same stretched smile, was the thing from the cemetery. Marcus had typed one message under the photo. Just 6 words. It waited until I was alone. Marcus stopped answering messages after that. His phone goes straight to voicemail now. Jess moved to another state 2 days later. Tyler deleted all his social media accounts. And me, well, the reason I finally decided to tell this story tonight, the reason I've been staring at my apartment door for the last 10 minutes instead of going to sleep, is because about an hour ago, while I was editing this video, I got a notification from a number I don't have saved. Just a single message. No name. No contact. Just text. It said, "You never said goodbye." And right after that, my phone camera opened by itself, front facing, for about half a second, just long enough for me to see something standing behind my chair.
thanks for watching, dudes. I hope you have enjoyed, and see you in the next episode. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below if you like tonight's stories or not. See you in the next episode.